Today we are going to go over Leetcode 180 consecutive numbers. This is a medium level problem and it's fairly high on the frequency ratings in Leetcode. So there's probably some value in knowing the gist of how to solve this. The general idea of the question is that you have a logs table that contains an ID and a number, and we need to find what numbers occur 3 times in a row without skipping an ID, or consecutively. There's 2 different ways to go about this, or at least 2 different ways that are fairly straightforward to go about it, and we'll go ahead and walk through both of them. The first way, which is probably the easiest way to do it, is through inner joins. So if you haven't experienced an inner join before, this basically allows you to join 2 tables together while simultaneously filtering on any data that doesn't match the join. Give the example here in just a second. So let's go ahead and start by collecting the num field. And we do need to set it as consecutive nums for this specific problem. So we'll create our alias, and we will get that information from the logs table, which I will set as log1. Or for simplification, just L1. Okay. So the next step would be to filter out those unnecessary IDs. Again, if the 1 is separated by 2, we don't want it. Or if any number is not consecutive, we don't want it. We need to do that additional filtering. The way we can do that with an inner join is by joining back to the logs table, give a new alias, L2, on L1 ID is equal to L2 ID minus 1. So we are then joining to the previous ID. Simultaneously, we need to make sure that the num value is the same. Okay. And we'll do this again for the next variable upstream. Sorry, the next value upstream. Okay. Now if I run this, I still won't get the correct answer. It's close, but we only want one value for the output as described by the question. So we'll go ahead and add a distinct. Interesting. We did end up with a runtime error where the num field is ambiguous. What this means is that because we joined to the log table multiple times and they all contain the num value, we need to tell the database which field we want to utilize. In this case, we'll just go ahead and use the first. Cool. Okay, so that is the first way to go about it. Let's talk about the second. So we can also create this query using a subquery or CTE. I'm going to go ahead and start with the CTE. And we are going to call this let's call it get logs. Okay, so real quick, if you haven't seen a CTE before, or a common table expression, this allows you to take a subquery and put it up in front of the query, which is helpful for readability, and you can then reference that table as much as you want throughout the query without having to rewrite the subquery, which can also be helpful. We won't have to do that today. We're just doing this for readability. Now, we will create a select statement with the ID and the num from logs. What we will then do is we will need to get the lag. So if you have not had experience with any window functions, the lag function is a window function. What it allows you to do is grab the previous value in a field. So if we were looking at the ID equals 3 and num equals 1, we can lag one time and get the num1 corresponding with ID 2. So let's walk through how we can do that. You'll create a lag. Our field we are lagging with is, or the field we are going to use with the lag is num. We're just going to take one step, or one step backwards, and we'll do it over the ID field, and so we'll just order by the ID, which is default ascending. We'll call it lag1. We'll have to do this 2 times, and what is nice about the lag function is you can tell it how many times to lag. So we'll just do 2, lag 2 here, and now we can do the same step as before, where we get our distinct value. So I'm just going to do a copy and paste here. We don't need the L1 for this case because we are not going to join. But we will collect our information from get logs. And then we'll set a filter where num is equal to lag1 and num is equal to lag2. All right, and that will solve it as well. If you submit this a handful of times for either of the queries, you'll get kind of sporadic responses as far as your runtime. So it seems that they are fairly similar, at least for the MySQL engine in Leetcode. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you have any questions you'd like me to look at, please also leave those in the comments below and I'll get to them as I can. Thank you.